Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the starroadpodcast. I'm Sterling, this is Tyler, and it feels like quite the triumph to finally be here.
I feel like I'm staring at a museum wall, like a museum for the best games ever made.
This is not for nothing. This is after some remodeling and some discomfort. I had to take everything down again. So when I put everything back up, man, I just said, let's just put more up.
It looks really good. For those who can't see, Sterling has about quadrupled the number of posters in his space, but kept the layout the exact same.
It might be a tad bit
No, I
ridiculous.
love it. I told you, like, I genuinely think it looks great. I really do. It adds a lot.
It's like the podcast tattoos, you know what I'm saying?
The only thing is it makes me feel inadequate with my one piece of wall art. So I'm gonna have to probably overhaul at some time soon. And really, I have so much stuff. We just moved into this house not too long ago. I've mentioned that on the podcast before. I have about 20 different things that I still need to hang on these walls. I just can't commit to where.
I had to pick what to hang. I mean, I have so much shit.
I'm spoiled for choice.
I had a lot to pick from though because everything was down.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of what you see has been laying flat in one stack safely, tucked away. You know.
Yeah. Well, it looks great, man. Really, don't change a thing unless you're adding to it.
Don't worry, bro. It's gonna stay. It's going to stay fresh.
That's awesome.
We have a lot going on today.
We do. We have some pretty good topics. I'm really excited. Shorter news, but a couple big items to talk about as well.
Yeah. We got some release dates, some highly anticipated information. We've got some speculative information.
Highly speculative.
I don't know if we'd even call it information, but I mean, we're all going to talk about it, so... And then we've got today's discussion is kind of a game. It's funny because Tyler said we should do something kind of like a game show.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to do some type of like 20 questions as far as gaming goes, you know. So that's going to be the discussion today.
Yeah. My thought was something totally off the wall, but I do think we can keep something like that in our pocket for the future.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is going to be fun, but I mean, there's always... It can get fun more than once, you know.
Yeah.
But this is cool because normally it's really structured. This is, I can't wait to hear what you have.
Me too.
I know you. You're going to be a little devil.
I tried to get really thought provoking with my questions, right?
That's what I'm saying. You're a little devil. You're going to put me on the spot. And I know you're not going to waste any of those slots.
Nah.
Which it's 10 apiece. I mean, it totals to 20, but we do have 10 for each other.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Now, the top 5, Tyler, why don't you tell the people what we're doing with that?
We're talking about the top 5 games we never talk about. This was a really, really tough one to come up with a list for me. Just because we've done, this is only our less than 5 video episodes.
Yep.
But we've done 40 something podcasts now. I hate that I don't have the number off the top. That's actually really embarrassing.
I think this is 42. I think
it's 42 or 43. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in there, but
we decided to take the numbers off of the podcast.
We did.
So,
but, we wanted to make a top 5 list of just the top 5 games that we never talk about. Like, there's so many games that it's almost a meme at this point that we talk about every single episode or so often just because they're games that we love. But these are games that we like, at least for me. My list is all games that I like a lot.
Definitely.
That we've just never really talked about very much on the podcast or have mentioned in passing, but not really talked about playing at all. So,
yeah. And you never know when we're going to get an opportunity to talk about them.
Definitely.
So this just makes a nice little spot for us to talk about games that don't usually fall into these specific top 5s or, that's usually we do the top 5 and a few games get a little bit of a spotlight. If we do a broad discussion, if it falls into that category, it'll get some spotlight. But we've played a lot of games, man.
And we've talked about a lot of games on this show.
We have.
So that'll be a good one.
It will, yeah, because I have no idea what you're going to pick because this isn't something that's, foreseeable.
No, I have multiple games on this list. At least one, if not multiple, that I've never even talked about with you. So that should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But let's get into the news, man. How about we start off with some release dates that we have finalized?
Let's ease us in there.
I'm going to ease in with Splatoon 3. The release date is going to be 9/9, September 9th this year.
To be expected. I feel like all three games have come out around that time.
I think they said summer 2022 originally, so this is behind. But I mean, hey, man, I'm sure people are about waiting. Something they did to hold Splatoon fans over in the meantime. If you have the expansion pack, the Octo expansion for Splatoon 2 is free.
Oh, that's nice.
Normally it's a $20 package. You can now just get that.
Yeah.
Pretty enticing. I got to admit, when I saw that, I was like, well, that makes it enticing to get the game on a sale. Because now you've got access to the DLC. If you catch it on a sale, I mean, you're going to get more than half off.
Yeah,
regardless.
absolutely.
So, that's a pretty nice little holdover for people until then.
Definitely.
Now, the other release date we got is something that I couldn't be more excited about, and that's Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Yeah.
We officially are getting the game July 29th this year.
Sooner than announced, like sooner than expected.
Absolutely. Originally, we heard September this year, and they moved it up, man. July 29th.
That's awesome.
Yep. And in honor of that, Xenoblade 2 stand on the limited run stand until then.
Absolutely.
Not taking it down. It's going to only be replaced with the successor,
I'll get around to this franchise one day, man. It just seems like a lot to take on.
I was just about to say it's a lot to take in, but I guess take on is also fitting.
Yeah. But I love what I've seen. I mean, it seems right up my alley.
Definitely. I mean, I know you'd enjoy it. The combat system is what I think would really pull you in about it. It's not your traditional RPG combat system. It's a lot more intricate. It's a lot more, 3D movement when certain attacks being efficient based off of where you're standing in coordination to the enemy. Which it kind of makes it a bit like World of Warcraft. I think I've said that before. Mm-hmm. But you're doing a lot of moving for the sake of abilities requiring you to be on a certain side of your enemy,
Okay. That's interesting.
Makes it very interesting. I see that the combat looks like it might have gotten even a little bit more intricate from what we've seen. So I'm curious to see. It looks like you're fusing with the blades and the drivers are becoming one now, as opposed to fighting side by side. That seems to be the new big thing,
That's awesome. So
you're kind of just going to be an all-in-one, powerful entity, But why don't you bring us into this leak? I don't want to say too much going into it.
Yeah. We'll give our normal disclaimer. We normally don't talk about leaks unless they're very widely being discussed, right?
Yep. And this is being covered pretty widely.
This is being covered pretty widely. If you don't want to hear leak related topics, I don't know, skip forward probably 10 minutes, maybe 15. We'll see how long we talk about this because there's a lot to go into.
What it's about, we're very passionate about. And
it's something we've discussed before. So just to get right into it, it looks like the source code leaked from a Switch development console or something for a Game Boy and Game Boy Advance emulator for the Switch Online, potentially. And
that's what we're looking at here.
There was a bunch of ROMs for a bunch of games in there, which we're not going to get into the full list. And there was some speculation over, just because they tested certain. This is basically a list of games that they tested within the emulator. And so just because they tested a game in the emulator doesn't mean they plan to offer it.
Right.
In the case of simulating like a link cable, it's very clear that they had screenshots from Pokemon games. So this leads me on a huge sort of speculative path in my mind. And it's very interesting that they did this because they emulated the link cable experience, and they also emulated the N64 transfer pack experience. There's code for that in the N64 emulator.
I want to be surprised by these types of things, but it just only seems logical.
So when you start putting the pieces together with that and thinking about, okay, are they actually going to start offering Pokemon games? Are they actually going to put Golden Sun on the Switch Online? I really want to temper my excitement over this because obviously these are make or break things that we're talking about here. For me, those two franchises being, the most important of what I saw, not to mention there was stuff like Mario Kart, there was stuff like other Mario sports games, Mario Golf, some incredible Game Boy titles on the list. So yeah, I mean, that's just it, Sterling. They leaked this source code. It's possible this may be something that they're announcing soon. We didn't really. I sent you this. We didn't really have a chance to talk about it too much during the week. I'm interested to get your thoughts and your reaction. If you have any questions about what was found, because I don't know if you went through it in quite as much as I did.
You were more in the know about this. I hadn't really heard much. But I started seeing things pop up as soon as you mentioned it to me.
Yeah, it's big news for sure.
No, I think we may have even said on here that the logical next, pick for the expansion pack. Oh, did I?
You specifically were thinking Game Boy.
But that's biased because I love the Game Boy.
I'm giving you credit where credit's due, man. You called this 100%.
But I feel like we did talk about it, and it does make sense. And you see things like the integration with the transfer pack and all that. You want to be like, oh, so thankful that they included that, but it just only seems logical that it would be included.
Well, because
they're together, they're existing in the same, almost the same application. It's on the same platform, so that kind of gives you they put Stadium on N64. They put the Pokemon games on Game Boy, and suddenly it's
bang,
like you have
boom.
your N64 and your Game Boy.
Suddenly you have a lot of functionality that you didn't have before.
This is starting to make me speculate on something that I don't know you want to get into.
Well, here's the thing, Sterling. Like, for me, this is the most important thing of all time. I just purchased Pokemon Stadium 2 because of what we're talking about, right? Like,
absolutely,
in a big part. So the fact that this can be made available to the masses, I don't know what to say. Like, I just don't want to put too much hope into specific games, right? It seems likely that the Game Boy is coming, but for us to hope for certain Pokemon games and stuff like that, or any specific game, like, I just don't want to get my hopes up, because that's, with the other virtual consoles, or, on the Switch Online, they're not virtual consoles, so to speak, but there are games that we are disappointed that we don't have access to, for all of them, in my opinion.
And I'm kind of starting to feel like, like a little hamster that's, getting the last bit of water out of the container, because it's like they have so much that's just sitting and they're trickling it out so slowly. And it's crazy to me.
And this is coming at a time where they're removing.
Exactly. That's where I was going with it, dude. Exactly.
Removing the 3DS and Wii U eShops is the end of that thought for everyone but you and me, because you're reading my mind. I know.
It's just, to me, that's what I was saying. The virtual console, to some capacity, you would think would come back, but could they just keep upping the subscription service? Like the price?
That's where it's tough, man. you know, a lot of people, you know, really complained about the price hike as it is because it felt like you weren't getting enough relative to the difference, right? I don't necessarily feel that way. I know you don't either, but a lot of people have voiced that concern. So
I feel more and more spoiled every time we get one thing. Like,
correct,
you know,
correct.
Mario
but
Golf or Mario
we live
Tennis.
and breathe this stuff.
Yeah, this is just what we come from.
And we've been around to see that Nintendo doesn't necessarily take access to titles, classic retro titles, as a given anymore, whereas they once might have.
And they look down on emulation still. See, that's the thing. It's a bit of a double standard. Either allow across the board emulation, or, you know, to some capacity, or just throw up the libraries. I mean, anything, even if it's just first party.
No question. I completely agree.
I feel like what they're doing is they're probably just keeping everything under lock and key just in case they can maximize on it. You never know when they make a film on some game that, you know, may have not been very big before. I mean, Rampage, for example, was a big game, but I remember whenever the Rampage movie came out with The Rock or whatever, suddenly the price on the NES cartridge, not crazy, but you saw it go up. And I actually think Rampage on the NES is shit. Just while we're on that topic, I don't know if I've gotten to express that.
I think you have on the podcast before. I've always only ever played it on the PS1. That was what I remember playing Rampage on.
Rampage World Tour, I think it was, or On Tour, whichever one, in the arcade and back in the day, man. Now that's good shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Rampage on NES, not ideal.
Yeah.
That's one of the games I sold off in the mini lots that I pared down.
What I'm looking at here is just the titles list of these files, and I'm seeing things like Super Mario Advance, Super Mario Bros. 3, Mario Golf, Mario Kart, Mario Tennis, Mega Man Battle Network.
And you see, that's not to cut you off, but that's what I was going to say. It's funny that the best games are all like the ones you're going to expect to be big announcements. Like the best shit on Game Boy Advance was like big title shit. Superstar Saga, Metroid Zero Mission, you know what I'm saying? Metroid Fusion.
Yep.
The Super Mario Advance games.
Yeah, Metroid, both those Metroid games are in there.
Zero Mission on Switch.
Think about it, man. WarioWare Inc., Wario Land 64, Minish Cap.
Oh, man. So many games that I've told you, like, oh, you have to play, and you're going to have access to them whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and that's a lot of those games I just named.
I mean, this is leaks, but...
These are leaks, and that's the thing. But now that we've gotten all the pessimism and skepticism aside, we can be excited. Like, yeah. I think that we're going to hear more on this sooner than later. Now Nintendo, obviously, they know that this is out. So I feel like in these situations, the best thing for these companies to do is to just go ahead and announce whatever you can, whatever you have. And that lets you control the conversation to some degree, right?
Definitely.
Because otherwise, you and me are going to be sitting here every week talking about, speculation until they announce something.
I'm hoping that they put the Final Fantasy Legend games on the Game Boy. Now that might be a bit of a far cry, but I hope they put those games on. They won't, because they're on that collection that came out, the Mana collection.
Think about this, Sterling.
Access is there. Hey, that's cool. But Link's Awakening, would love the world to be able to play Link's Awakening. I mean, that's one of the best Zelda games, and it's on Game Boy.
So think about something. We have currently the ability to export Pokemon from the Virtual Console games on 3DS from generations 1 and 2 all the way forward into home. Yeah,
and I've done it. I did a lot of 3DS cartridge dumping and used, Pokemon Bank.
Yep. And then it's Poke Transport to get him off the Virtual Console games. Yep. So do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, something you've talked about before, if I'm not mistaken. Finally having the backwards compatibility to the beginning,
all the way back, which we technically do right now. If you have a 3DS and these Virtual Console games, you can. So it's not giving not exclusively there's no new exclusive functionality that we get out of this, but it brings it to everyone. Now anyone who is a Switch owner, you don't need a 3DS to be able to get these things. And
like you're caught up.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Aside from putting in the footwork, you're caught up to the idea being a realization.
Absolutely. So that the ability to potentially take Pokemon out of this thing into home, that's where you really get into like fantasy land for me.
Oh, I mean, it's exciting.
It's exciting. It's not like it's hard for me to envision that actually taking place in reality anytime in the near future. I'm a bit skeptical if they can't even get Arceus and Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl home support in a timely manner, which I know they're working on it, but it makes me skeptical that they're going to prioritize this.
Do we know that they're working on it?
They said that support for both games is coming in 2022. That's all they've said, but they have said that. And
I didn't even know we had confirmation, to be honest with you.
And in recent updates to both games, there is data from each other game. Like there's data for Pokemon from Arceus in Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and vice versa. Like, tags
like
for where they're from and stuff.
Obviously, the lists are already set in stone. So
yeah, so that is supposedly a thing. How it exactly works with Arceus is going to be interesting to me because it's not a 1-to-1 with a lot of different things in that game, right? Like, yeah, moveset wise, Pokemon wise, obviously, but the thought of being able to get something like Sneasel or Basculegion or Ursaluna, one of these like really cool Hisuian Pokemon into home is like exciting. And if they really add those into Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, that would be incredible too. Even though I don't know, I mean, it doesn't seem likely that they would do that.
That doesn't seem likely.
It doesn't seem likely.
Unless if you put it into home, where's it going to go?
That's the problem, right?
Probably the next Legends game.
Maybe.
I mean, that's the only
Which
thing
they
that
said
makes
there is going to be
me.
more. Like,
yeah, I mean, you knew that. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
But that would be the only use, I think, for home with the Hisuian ones is just to move them forward to whatever other Legends game comes out.
Unless they add, compatibility. I could see them doing it if they, assuming, from what I have understand from reading all this stuff, I went into a rabbit hole with, and we're going long on this one topic, but it merits it because it's like so core to everything. What I was reading on when I was diving into this leak was a lot of the issues with getting home compatibility for Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl is because those games are written in Unity, which is like causing the issue because home is not Unity, I suppose.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they'll figure it out, man.
I would love for them to.
I would love for them to figure it out. Because I really thought by now we would have had even just Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl home fully compatible. There's no reason.
The only other thing I will say, I was actually wrong. You do actually get access to something that from this integration should it happen, because you will be able to bring things from the Pokemon Stadium games forward.
Yeah.
That is pretty incredible to think about playing even in Ultra Sun. Well, I guess you can't go back to 3DS, but something like, I don't know. See, that's the problem, right? What can you bring Pokemon into these days? But thinking about bringing something from Stadium all the way forward is a pretty spicy, I gotta say. Even into home. It is.
Especially, like you said, all on the Switch, all in one.
Because Stadium, in a way, was kind of the first home.
Kinda. I mean, yeah. It was our home. I mean, our home has a big building that is a Game Boy. Let's just,
Definitely.
That's where we exist.
Game Boy Tower. Dodrio Game Boy.
We're going to be talking more about this because if this comes to fruition, I mean, I'm a Game Boy enthusiast. This is going to be a field day.
E3 is only 2 months away. Nintendo doesn't present there anymore, but they usually do a direct at the same time.
Yeah. We'll see what happens, man. But I think you wanted to talk about Sonic today, man.
Oh, yeah.
Sonic Origins.
Oh, boy. Yeah, Sonic Origins. It's announced. It's a collection of several Sonic titles rescaled for $16.9, and apparently there's new content in between, but it was a big backlash when they came out with the pricing because there's like 4 or 5 different like packages you can get that are various DLCs and pre-order bonuses combined together, and people were really like annoyed by that because it seems like one of the most complicated games to purchase.
Oh man, come on.
Yeah.
Sonic Mania was so easy. I mean, they had a $4.99 DLC that was totally optional.
So it looks cool, right? I was excited to see kind of what they're doing, even though I don't know if this would be a purchase for me at any point. I don't
even know what the packages are, to be honest with you. I'm not familiar. I just watched the trailer, you know.
It's going to have some additional content, but a lot of it is stuff that we already have access to. And for me, I already have access to all these games on Steam and other places. So
yeah, and I think we just talked about Sonic Mania being the back scratcher for the Sonic itch, right?
Definitely. I mean, that game's coming up on 3-4 years old at this point.
Yeah, but I was even still.
I mean, it's still, yeah.
It would be cool. I mentioned earlier, whenever we were talking about it and I wasn't as familiar with what Origins was, I was like, is it like a Tropical Freeze, like a 2.5D situation? You were like, no. But that would be kind of cool if they do something like that in the right style.
They have a game that's kind of like that called Sonic Generations.
It must not have been very good, though, because,
I
haven't heard anything about it being that type of...
It's got 2D and 3D elements. It goes back and forth from 2D to 3D, but some of the 2D parts, as I understand, have that 2.5D element.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I've heard that it's like a decent enough Sonic game, but there's issues with it, right? I've never played it myself.
Check this out. I'm not trying to interrupt the program, but peep this out. We got the Genesis on the Switch Online. What makes you think we can't get the Dreamcast? Now think about that for a second. Nothing. There's no reason that we couldn't get Dreamcast.
That is interesting.
Would have never thought about that, but yep.
What made you think of it?
I thought about Sonic Adventure, and I was like, and I was going to make a joke about it, Sonic Adventure on Switch Online, and I was like, that's not particularly a joke.
No, that could definitely happen.
Definitely. I think it might happen. I mean, the Genesis is on it. That's all I've got to say, man. That makes any console that Sega's done. I don't think they'd put the Saturn on this. I mean, make no mistake. But the Dreamcast is popular enough, man. I mean, there's a very big following and collector scene for the Dreamcast and for the Saturn. But I mean, the Saturn wasn't in as many homes. You know,
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I think if they're emulating the N64, they can emulate the Dreamcast.
No doubt. And at the end of the day, they have a lot of stuff that was on Dreamcast, maybe not ROM form, but they have stuff on the eShop, you know, Virtua Fighter, some of the stuff that was on Dreamcast to some extent.
Do we have any Soul Calibur games on Switch? No, right?
No.
That's a shame.
No Crazy Taxi either. You know how much I would love a port of Crazy Taxi on Switch?
They could totally put that on there for $9.99, dude. I feel like that's been out on like everything.
I'll still play that on the Xbox One S from time to time.
I love arcade Crazy Taxi, man. Just slamming that wheel back and forth. It's amazing.
Just slamming it in reverse.
Yep.
I think that's all we have for the news today, man.
Yeah.
So the question is, are you ready for questions?
I am ready for questions. Let's do it.
Do you want to throw yours first?
Oh man. All right. So these are all really thought provoking. I think, you know, of course it's easy for me to say that they would provoke my thoughts, but I am gonna try and there's a few. Well, we'll just get into it. We'll get into it. I don't need to qualify it with everything.
I mean,
All right.
we can give a disclaimer. I mean, we could talk about what we're doing. We're just spouting out 10 questions we pick for each other.
All mine are related to video games, and that's about as specific as it gets.
Oh, I'm excited for this, T.
All right. First question, what is the one game you never get tired of coming up with new strategies or challenges for?
Does it have to be a specific title, or can it be like games that fall together?
Freeform, man. For whatever answer strikes you, whether it's a game or a franchise or a genre, like just go with it. That's I'm going to be really loosey-goosey with the answers on these.
Originally, I wanted to say the Super Mario Bros. Games, and I actually think I might stick with that. 3D Mario games like Odyssey and even 64. Just
that's a great
answer. The shortcuts, man, and that could also apply to these old first person shooters that I play. I think I'm not giving a specific game here, which is the question.
No, that's fine.
You asked which game.
Yeah, which game, or maybe a franchise.
I mean, I would say Super Mario Odyssey. That's a great game. Like, I don't find myself constantly trying to come, but when I play it, like when I'm actively playing it, I am constantly coming up with ways to reach that place. Working around the path that's there for you. So in that respect, I would say things like Quake and Super Mario Odyssey, perfect examples. You could either do a level in Quake as intended, or you can rocket jump and skip half the level. I like that type of experimentation.
Absolutely.
Seeing a place and then trying to get there, whether unreasonably or not.
Sure.
Super Mario 64, trying to walk up the slope on Battlefield.
Yeah.
That type of shit, man. Like, that's what it's all about. So, yeah, my answer is Super Mario Odyssey, Quake, and Super Mario 64. I'd say it about those 3 games.
Awesome. Let's hear your question.
That I had 3?
No, that's perfect.
Okay. So, Tyler, I'm going to explain the question after I ask it. But what is your dream game? So that means graphics from this game.
Oh, like
this game's
Frankenstein?
Frankenstein. The gameplay from this game. The music and score from that one. Or if you want to go as specific as developer, you could say it'd be developed by this company.
That's really tough. That's really tough.
I know it's really tough, but I had to... There's 10 slots, dude. I had to do something good with these, okay?
Oh, man. I would say, all right, I'm just going to build it from the ground up for you. Instead of naming elements from specific games, I'm just going to build it from the ground up.
Yeah, like walk me through.
I'm going to walk you through the dream game, okay?
Okay.
1, it's got cards. It's got a trading or deck building aspect. 2.
I knew you'd say that.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. I live for that. I really do. All right. 2, it's got a very, very, very detailed scoring and metrics system with leaderboards, achievements, rankings, everything you could want. 3, it would have to be something played like very competitively, and also have a story and a casual element, and also have some sort of cooperative element. You said dream game. You didn't say it had to make a lot of sense.
No. I listed off examples of elements that you could reference. That's
correct.
all. I mean, this is free.
So I would say a deck building game with a competitive element, a story mode, a co-op mode, and something that's like easy to learn, hard to master, like a very, very high skill ceiling with challenges that are basically like never ending. That's my ideal game.
Hey, fair enough, dude.
It sounds so bad to describe it that way.
Maybe you should listen back, and then maybe you can put a finger on what your soulmate game is with all of those features.
Maybe.
So that's pretty cool. So I know you got 9 more for me, so how about you pick a good one?
Have you ever learned any piece of information from a game that has helped you in your real life?
That's a really good
or
question.
any type of knowledge, anything that you've been able to, like, big or small, right? Even if it could be a recipe from a life sim game that you implemented in real life, just anything that you were able to port over.
I learned a lot. I know it's not 1-in-1, but I learned a lot about, I guess you could say, like, produce from Stardew Valley.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of
like
where I figured you would go.
I think the biggest thing I learned was not, you ballpark what seasons some things grow in. Yeah, normally that's not something I would be fully in the know about. But since the game is split up into seasons, and every season, the crops change up, you get into that motion, and it kind of, the flow of time in the game is not 1-in-1 with reality, but the seasons are what they are.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, Stardew Valley, I mean, it doesn't teach you how to farm, but it certainly scales to where certain crops that take longer in real life to grow are going to take longer to grow in the game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A higher day count as far as harvesting,
Sure.
So yeah, Stardew Valley, man, learned a lot from that. Even if it's basic knowledge, not extensive,
Awesome. What do you got for me next?
Oh man, I don't want to put you on the spot with things, man. I know you don't.
It's gonna happen. It's
particularly enjoy that. What do you recall being the first time you were fully immersed in a video game? The first time you just were pulled clean in and just almost exited this reality. I imagine you would have been pretty young, but I mean,
it's got to be, I think it would have to be once you start to get into the middle of the game in Crash Bandicoot, the first one. Like, once you start getting into the really difficult levels, it becomes unconscious, like, to play, to the point where you're just so locked in on this platforming, Yeah. Because it's so hard. So yeah, that's my answer. Crash 1.
Hey, good answer, man.
All right.
What you got for me?
Question number 3. If video games didn't exist, what would you spend your free time doing? And I think I already know the answer.
Making music, man. Making music, no question. I mean, I love making music. I haven't talked about it on the podcast really, but I mean,
even though you've made every intro and outro that we've had.
Yes, I have. I do the music for the podcast. Also have been in many bands. The only one that I'm currently associating myself with is Powers of Kiev. I mean, I'd be writing for something as far as guitar goes. I've been working a lot on Ableton. I never lose inspiration on Ableton. I mean, that's what I'd be spending my time doing, no question. Music and video games are just my passions,
Yeah, I figured as much. Awesome.
But it is a good question because, I mean, we do spend quite a bit of time gaming.
Of course.
And if I had all this behind me and didn't, I'd be a pretty big phony. So good question, T. I'm about to hit you, so just brace yourself.
I'm bracing.
What is your most desired collectible? It doesn't have to be a cartridge or a disc, but it has to be video game related. Your personal holy grail. It could be a game. I mean, just gaming collectible.
So
that's a tough one. To me, it's a tough one.
There's
that's
a few things. I'm just going to list off like 5 things.
Okay.
And then that'll help me decide. Pokemon Platinum, Pokemon Coliseum, I don't know. Stuff like that, where it's like stuff that's exorbitantly expensive now. that is just like must-haves for me. I mean, I would say those two being the first thing that jumped to my mind, just from a completionist standpoint from the Pokemon franchise, right? Like,
that's your biggest collecting endeavor. So obviously that would be something related to that. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
yeah, for sure. If it wasn't something like that, I don't know. It's hard to pick because I'm not actively desiring anything right now that when something is absurdly expensive, I find myself like just dissociating from that, right? Where I'm like, I don't envision a scenario where I've ever actually come upon that. So it's tough to say. Those two Pokemon games are definitely the first thing that come to my mind. If I was to go with something non-Pokemon, I don't know. It would probably be something Nintendo related, like just any console I don't own, any like hardware that I don't own, right? Maybe, I don't know, just something like maybe a cool handheld, like a PS Vita or something, or like a DSi, I think would be really cool.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy. I don't have anything where it's like over the top, something that is just driving me crazy that I don't have access to.
I like that you gave a humble answer for this one, and that it wasn't some $3,000 holy grail.
No,
I like
mean,
that.
If we included Magic the Gathering, I could just say Black Lotus, which is a card that the cheapest printing is $5,000, right, or something.
Even
probably
I know
more
about
now.
that card, yeah.
But I don't actively desire or covet that card. Like, if I did, I would insure it. Like, if I had that card, I would insure it and eventually probably sell it to start a business or something. Like, I don't know. Like,
desired is a strong word. That's
correct.
the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I have like, if there's something I feel like I need to have and it's reasonably priced, right, then I'm gonna buy it as a luxury expense, every once in a while. Like,
yeah.
So, yeah, that's my answer. We'll just go with those two games and we'll call it there.
Hey, it's an answer.
All right, here's one for you.
And you have a question.
What personal achievement or challenge in a game, would you grind out if time was not an issue? For instance, like one example that I don't think you would pick, maybe it is, but like completing the entire home dex or a living dex or a shiny living dex or something.
Yeah, some type of
huge
goal.
task. For me, I could say,
if I could go into the hyperbolic time chamber.
Correct. And time.
Shout out to DBZ.
You didn't have to experience the time spent on the grind.
Oh man. I'd probably want to get on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and smash everybody's times on every course.
That's a good answer.
I think that's really what, like, if you're talking about, like I said, like a hyperbolic time chamber where I literally, any time spent grinding is not wasted time in life. I can just, that time set aside, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I would go smash everybody's scores, everybody's times on every course.
That's a good answer.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
That's a great answer.
No, I mean, I didn't mean to make it so simple, but that just seems like what I'd go do.
That's what it's about. That's a great answer.
Yeah. I knew immediately it would be something to do with times on stuff, on speed running and stuff, because that's the type of time you really have to have time for.
Definitely.
I mean, it's just, you don't just do that with minimal free time. You have to have some dedication.
Yeah.
So my next question for you, man, what is the most unenjoyable game you have ever played?
Unenjoyable.
Something that you picked up and you said, this is just fucking miserable.
Does this include games that are meant to be bad?
Define meant to be bad.
Quap, or like getting over it, or like irritating joystick.
No.
Okay.
No, I really would like it, if you don't mind, to be unironic.
Oh man. I can't go into my Steam library. I don't know.
That's okay.
Most unenjoyable game that
Just had the worst experience with it. Just felt nothing for. I mean, it doesn't even have to be hatred. You could have just felt nothing. Because feeling nothing is unenjoyment. I mean, so it's as simple as I'm not having fun with this.
It's so funny because normally we remember negative experiences more than positive, right? With a lot of things in life, like one negative experience will stick out a lot more than any similar positive experience. But I feel like with something like this, because a game I like, I would spend hours on, and a game I don't like, I would not. Like, it's actually hard for me to think of something. I'm racking my brain.
I always assume, I assume that this would be something you played elsewhere. I mean, or rented, something
Definitely.
you didn't got to. I could have worded it. What game was the biggest disappointment? That would have had the same outcome.
Okay. Well, all right, Sterling. What game had the biggest disappointment for me? That would be Final Fantasy VII Remake for not being turn-based.
So you didn't enjoy it?
Not one bit.
Okay, so that's your most unenjoyable game, right?
I would say right off the top, that's the first thing that snapped into my mind when you said disappointment. Let down.
That's the thing about it. It goes hand in hand.
And you were there for that. You were sitting next to me when I did that.
I was.
Which is so unusual.
I already knew that. I already knew that the game was that way.
And you did,
didn't.
And I didn't. And I was expecting, like, when it got to the first combat, I'm like, oh, yeah, let's see what this revamped turn-based system is. It's going to be so sick. And then it's like dodge, and it's like bad Dark Souls. Like, you just dodge and attack. And
I just realized I literally was sitting next to you in person.
You literally were sitting next to me in person. Yeah.
Oh, no, man. You see, that's the type of thing that hits hard because you were a fan of the original game and you were disappointed by the new presentation.
Very disappointed.
So I understand that being the pick. That didn't turn me off of the game. I mean, I haven't played it yet, but it's different, but it's new,
For me, there's no point to play. I'm going to be honest with you.
Damn, that's harsh.
Zero. What's the point? Like, what? I don't know. I just don't see for the same reason. Sterling, I have not put Origami King back in my Switch in a long time for a similar reason. It's just matters that much to me. I don't know. That's my whole desire.
You're just not enjoying yourself, right?
That's my whole desire to play an RPG, is to enjoy the mechanics of the battle system. To be honest with you, I mean, that's a big majority of it anyway.
Yeah.
So that would be it. I think that's probably as succinct as I can get with that.
Fair enough, dude. I know that was a rough one to parse out, but you did it.
Yeah, it was. Well, when you said disappointed, that's what really hit me over the head, because
they go hand in hand. Not enjoying, disappointed by,
Absolutely. So, I don't want to get into the particulars of personal lives or anything, but if you were ever to have a child or a niece or a nephew that knew nothing about video games, never played a video game before they were, maybe 4 or 5 years old, just starting to, maybe 6, starting to understand things and have some dexterity, and you're gonna, maybe it's a niece or a nephew and their parent has never gotten them into it or even shown them anything, and they say, all right, Sterling, I want you to show little Timmy or Tammy their first game. It can be anything you want. What's the pick?
I start factoring in so many things because I don't want the game to be too intricate for the kid.
Exactly. And I don't want you to harp too long on content necessarily. Obviously, we wouldn't be recommending GTA, but don't think too much from a content or graphic angle, but more from just a introductory game for them mentally.
It's funny because we come from such different times, and I would almost want to say Tetris just because it had that effect on me. But that doesn't mean that everybody's the same as me.
It can be whatever you want, man.
So
I'm not
honestly,
asking anyone else.
I think that if I could just place a single game in their hands, it'd probably be Super Mario Odyssey.
Really?
I just think I've been friends with people who've had kids and are like, oh, what game on the Switch should I get for my kid? And it's just I don't even think about it. Yeah. It's Super Mario Odyssey, and I think that would be the game. I feel like if we were kids, that would have been the greatest thing in the world as far as where we existed with our interests and So just because we didn't have Odyssey when we were kids doesn't mean a kid now should. And I think any child that expresses any interest in video games should play Super Mario Odyssey.
Awesome.
That's the answer, man.
Nice.
Oh, but I gotta get one for you here, man.
We're moving right along.
We are. What system do you have the most interest in collecting games for?
Currently?
If you had X amount of disposable income and you, for whatever reason, had to focus on a system, I'm just curious what system, even if you picked up a new one that you don't have to collect for, where's your collector interest system-wise? That's all I'm wondering.
It's so hard to pick. I would have to say probably right now, Super Nintendo, just being that I just picked one up. We didn't actually get to this in the news, but
it's a fantastic answer. Oh yeah, we didn't do gaming and pickups.
Yeah, that's cool. I got a Super Nintendo within this time frame of the last 2 weeks, and I'm loving it. And I have a good few games for it already that are staples. But there's quite a lot of good games for that system.
Oh, yeah.
So that's probably my pick. I would say Super Nintendo.
It's a fantastic pick, man. I mean, honestly, that would be probably my answer, too, if I were to have to answer all these, which I'm glad I don't.
I know. There's so many questions that I'm like, don't ask me my answer to this.
Yeah, definitely. But it's funny. I've accumulated so much for the 64 and the Game Boy and the NES to where I have everything I like that I feel like Super Nintendo is logically next.
Yeah.
Because I have like 20-something games for it. But
there's some iconic games about for that console, man.
No question.
All right.
Great answer.
So in the same ballpark, which console would you most want to own that you don't already? Money is not an issue.
I feel like I've been here before. Does it have to be from like a major developer or can it be third party?
I don't care, man. It's whatever you want.
I would like to own either the Analog Pocket.
Okay.
That we talked about recently. That is up there. I would love to own that. The Analog Pocket. And also the Analog NT, which is basically the NES, the third party, very high quality from what I understand, HDMI NES. Either of those, man. Maybe the AVS, even more. I'm sorry, the Analog NT.
Yeah.
The Analog NT would probably be the top of the list because I would love. I have a Retron HD. It's all right. I mean, it's functional, but I want something that's perfect. Just exactly. The audio's a little off on the Retron. Colors are a little off. I want something that plays HDMI NES cartridges, beautiful resolution, everything as intended.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten hands-on with a NES Classic? I know they don't play the cartridges necessarily.
No, I haven't gotten hands-on. I've gotten hands-on with every game on it.
Yeah, of course.
But haven't actually played one.
I just didn't know how. I imagine it, being that it's ROMs, it probably looks pretty good and that it's official.
Totally, but I mean, the list of games on it, very impressive. But there's so many other titles, just so many other titles that need to be experienced on the NES. You can't fit it. You can't wind it down to what they had on it. You know. And also, they put a lot of Nintendo first-party stuff that was okay. You know, some of the black box games aren't the best games. Mm-hmm. Let's just be honest. I mean, it was an older time. But I still would definitely want the Analog NT or the Analog Pocket. It's funny because they both come from Analog, but these are just the high-end, you know, like the high-end pieces of hardware for the systems I care about that I have quite the collection of games for. So
awesome.
That's my answer, man.
Perfect.
My next one for you, Tyler. What feature present in video games grabs you or pulls you in the most?
It's got to be a battle system, right? I mean, we just talked about it. I think that for me,
you were passionate about it, you know, when you talked about your lack of enjoyment for certain games. But now we're talking enthusiasm.
Definitely. I think it's got to be a complex battle system, a complex level up tree. I love the level up tree from Final Fantasy X. That's one of my favorites. I know some people didn't like it, but I love that.
Love it. I think it's fantastic.
Just those types of elements that you can get really technical with. I absolutely love the battle system in Triangle Strategy. There's a lot of depth there. There's a lot of depth there. And for a modern game like that, like it blows away anything that I saw in Octopath, like for comparison, right? Just the amount of variability that you have in your party and the terrain and how it all just lines up so perfectly. I just love it. So yeah,
that's not downing Octopath. That's
it's a different genre. It's a different genre of RPG. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's called a tactical RPG for a reason.
Yes.
But that, man, just a complex mechanical system for battling. That's what pulls me in. Big time.
That's a great answer.
Or deck building.
You should definitely play Xenoblade because it goes very in depth with the skill trees and the customization as far as stats go, you know.
I live for that, man.
Maybe too much. That's what I like about it. There's almost too much. Like you used to going through RPGs and upgrading your helmet and your your chest and your weapon. Man, this is like upgrading 30 things every time you get into the next city.
Yep.
And that's just reality. I love it though.
And I think about a game like Final Fantasy VII that had it was so open-ended with the upgrade system and everything. Like you could do anything with any character pretty much. And I love that.
Totally. Yeah, I love that freedom.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
If I hadn't talked about a battle system on one of the other questions, something else might have occurred to me, but that's so obviously the pick for me just because it's so painful. Like it's so painful when a game has a bad battle system that it makes me not want to play it. So I think that
like you said, that's
volumes.
the point. Yeah. So you don't want to get in the battle and be like, here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
It defeats the purpose. What you got next for me, man?
What type or genre of game would you most want to design? Current skill set, like notwithstanding, you know.
That's so funny because I actually had that as a question, not to cut you off. I had that as a question for you, but I asked it in place of the dream game because I thought that you might answer with the same thing. You might want to design your dream game, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
If I were going to design one, it had to be an original IP. It had to be totally original.
Not necessarily.
Ground up.
No, not necessarily.
I feel like that would only be logical, though. I can't just suddenly be sitting in some executive desk at Nintendo.
It's just what you want.
I think I would make like, and this is going to sound obvious at first, but probably like some type of retro style first-person shooter that had more casual elements in it. Kind of like how in older games, you know, you have your treacherous parts and you get into town, or RPGs across the board. You get into town and there's this break. It's like, finally, you know. They don't really put that in a lot of these newer or even the old retro FPS games. That like the calm in the middle. It's always action for the most part. And there's a lot of story-driven games that, you know, there's some resting time, but they're not presented in the style that I'm talking when I say like the retro FPS style, the 90s look. It'd be cool if there was just some like stop along the way elements in this. So I think I would make some type of new retro FPS that had some type of features in it that weren't present in any other, really.
Like
even
a
if
deck
it was
building element.
deck building or something like farming, cooking, things like that. A lot of these aren't really in that style of game.
Definitely.
It's all straight to the point.
So how do we collaborate on a like a boomer shooter RPG deck building turn-based strategy game?
I don't know about turn-based. I mean, I want it to be real-time action. But no, you're on the right path though. Like my mind was following with you. But yeah, basically that would be it, dude.
The thought of a deck building boomer shooter makes me like crack up for some reason.
It's like your Gambit. You're throwing the cards and shooting them.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, that's what it would be. Just also NPC interaction. There's not a lot of that. Not a lot of other friendlies.
Yeah,
you would want
there to be a story element to it, and that's almost like just like an RPG element, right?
That's basically the best way to put it. I don't know why I'm sitting here dancing around it. RPG mixed with retro FPS. But still with guns, though. I don't want it to be medieval simulation. You know what I mean? I want it to have guns.
We got to go back on the RPG servers or on the role-playing servers on Unreal Tournament 2004. See if we can get that working.
Yeah, dude. That was a good time.
Yeah. All right. What you got next?
I think it's time for me to ask another one. In terms of gaming, would you rather have grown up in a different time than we did, the 90s?
Oh, man, my knee jerk is to say no, right? Because and I feel like most people would say that. I think the next best time to grow up would have been probably like the early 80s, and just to see the technology changing, from NES to Super Nintendo, and just experiencing that. Like, that seems pretty magical to me. We kind of came in behind that, like the next step or two after that.
Yeah. I mean, we were kind of like N64 time.
Yeah, we saw the Super Nintendo came out 2 or 3 years before we were born. So by the time we were young enough to play games like N64, PS1, that was what was relevant. Yeah.
So you want to be a kid in 85, you want to be 5 in 85,
something like that. And
that's a sweet spot for me.
That would be my second choice after current, what we have already.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Actually, I want to be 5 years old in 85 when the NES drops.
Yeah, that'd be
and
sick.
then be 9 years old for the
Super
Game
Nintendo.
Boy.
Yeah,
and then not even a teenager yet, 12 or something for the Super Nintendo. That'd be perfect. But you want to be younger with the Super Nintendo. You see, I got that experience though. I got to play so much Super Nintendo when I was a kid.
Yeah, I really wasn't into it until PS1 and N64. That was where the vast majority was.
Yeah.
All right.
I expected an immediate no.
Well, I want to have something to talk about, right?
Definitely.
I think that would be the next best thing. But obviously, the era we grew up in, pretty darn good.
Yeah, man. I'm not complaining.
As far as gaming. What game would you most enjoy playing as the main character? Now, I want to give the caveat here to make it interesting. I'm not going to exclude experiencing pain or damage or something. You have to factor that in.
So I have to be it's who would I prefer to be in their shoes?
Yeah, what would you most enjoy playing the game as the main character physically? You're in the game. But if you get shot, you're gonna feel it. Maybe not the same as in reality.
That's a good question.
So that has to be a factor. I'm not saying it would not be a violent game at all for that reason, but you just have to weigh that in.
I mean, how about Pokemon, dude? Any Pokemon game, I don't have to hurt. The Pokemon does. First off, love animals, but that would just be the reality. Even still, they just faint, right?
Sure.
So yeah, hey, that's a cool world to live in anyway. But yeah, probably the Pokemon world. I mean, when you wake up, you have the most current Nintendo console in your room.
Yeah.
I got my games. I don't have to hurt. You can talk to people. I mean,
And it's Pokemon.
Dude. Yeah, so I'll be red or blue. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Straight up, bro.
It's like straightforward, but I mean that's what we used to dream about. You know,
if you wouldn't have brought up the pain thing, I would have said like something badass.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, if it was something like Doom or whatever, like that's sick, right? But would you actually enjoy being the Doom guy?
No, I mean, like I would enjoy the rush for a little bit, but you have to exist there indefinitely. So I'm not trying to really do that.
All right. So if damage was not an issue, what was your answer?
Well, now I'm thinking about it more because I have to exist there, and it's only cool for so long.
Well, you wouldn't exist outside of the gameplay. So let's think about it that way.
Yeah, still sounds just as miserable. Let's go with red and blue from Pokemon.
All right, sounds good, man.
I think it just is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, that's you know, that would probably be my answer too.
Animal Crossing's an easy one, but then again,
that sounds boring after a while.
After a while, you probably would get have an existential crisis.
100%, yeah. How long am I going to be on this freaking island?
But in Pokemon, you have like a world map, so you can at least travel.
Yeah.
You know. Well, who's going next here?
You.
Me. Okay. Let me ask you something, Tyler. What video game character would you most relate with if you had to pick?
I like how we're kind of on the same wavelength with these. Most relate with. That's interesting, though.
Who would you most relate with? It could be overall, or it could be on... I actually thought, just to help you out here, you can almost say it could be the story-driven element of that character in that game you relate with. Because I feel like that's where my mind would go if I was asked this. Kind of like, I feel their mission here. I feel like why they're going through and doing what they're doing.
Totally. Link comes to mind for me, just because he seems kind of like an unlikely hero, kind of like a, you know, his contributions don't always, and this is going to sound way lame for me to say about myself, but like his contributions are kind of like subtle to the world around him in some ways, right? Like the way he influences the world and saves the world is not always overt in nature. Like not everybody in Hyrule or, you know, wherever he's at is going to understand how he saved the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're just going to be thankful to him.
Or they might not know Link had anything to do with it, you know?
Yeah, true.
That's more of what I'm saying. So, like, Link definitely
comes... he's selfless, yeah.
Yeah, Link definitely comes to mind.
That's a great pick. I love that.
Beyond that, I'm going to just stick with Link, man. I don't want to overthink it.
I think it's a great answer. I don't think it needs to be overthought. He's doing right just for the sake of doing right, really.
Yeah, exactly. And I really like that.
He might be taking some blind advice, but he's rolling the dice, trusting odd entities.
And just
like
doing the
little
best that he can.
Just, yeah.
And he always
pretty
has
much helping whoever needs help.
He always has to be resourceful, right? Like he really has to solve a problem by finding something to solve that problem.
He's got to be smart. Yep.
So that's pretty cool to me.
Shout out to Link, man. We can't wait for Breath of the Wild 2.
I know. It's going to be awesome. My fiance is on a trip right now, and she asked what 4 games she would bring with her for her Switch. And I gave her Breath of the Wild as one. I was like, because I knew she was going to have a lot of downtime. She hasn't played it yet, but I was like, if you have, don't start this until you have a few hours, because you don't want to play it for 20 minutes to start. You're not going to get anywhere. Like, you really need a good few hours to get started in that game.
And that's the thing. I know it's so typical to be like the big dogs of the Switch, Breath of the Wild, Odyssey. Every time I'm asked a question where Odyssey comes into conversation, Breath of the Wild also pops into my mind.
Definitely.
But when it comes to kids, I feel like Odyssey is more friendly because there's a lot of utility and there's a lot of mechanics in Breath of the Wild that take a certain level of understanding. Sure. That's not to say a kid can't wrap their head around it.
No, but it's not intuitive as a Mario game.
Yeah, like it's not as pick up and play. But Breath of the Wild's always in. I mean, that's obviously the pickup when you get a Switch. If you don't have it, get it.
Definitely. Yeah, but that's the pick, man. Link.
That's totally understandable. I'm sure you have something else for me.
I do. I got 2 more questions written here.
As do I.
Number 9, which game does not get the love it deserves?
Which game does not get the love it deserves? I think about 2 games, really. And I know we've had multiple answers on these questions, but I feel like Super Mario RPG deserves more love, but I feel like that's because people haven't had exposure.
It's not gotten any attention.
And that's what I mean. Yeah, the people who've played it love it. But the people who want to play it can't play it very easily.
You can put that as my answer for what collectible would I want the most.
I thought you might even say that when you started on the Super Nintendo thing. I didn't think you were that passionate about it, though. But I
want to play the game. I would love to play it in its intended form. It would probably be one of your
favorites. Yep. But I'm losing track of where I was here, man.
Super Mario RPG doesn't get the love it deserves.
Yes, and also Perfect Dark. I know it got an Xbox remake. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't anything near what the original was, in my opinion. I mean, it's just a totally different game. But I feel like Perfect Dark doesn't get the love it deserves next to GoldenEye. I feel like Perfect Dark, without the GoldenEye tag on it, without the 007 affiliation, should have gotten, from a gamer standpoint, maybe some more fanfare, really.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
I think the only thing that stopped it was the fact that it didn't have that mass appeal franchise attached to it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
The game, because I love GoldenEye to death, but I mean, the gameplay in Perfect Dark just feels superior. It feels like an upgrade. So, yeah, Super Mario RPG, Perfect Dark. I think those are in the ballpark of games that need more love.
Awesome. What you got for me?
That's a good question in itself, but I only have 2 to pick from, so. What game would you say is the perfect marriage of audio and visual design? You can like graphics from one game, you can like music from another, but this is one title, all encompassing.
It's got to be Celeste, right?
You just love how it looks and love how it sounds.
And they're made for one another. Like the audio complements the visuals 100%.
It's a fantastic pick.
Yeah, I mean that's the first thing that comes to mind. Something else that came to mind just because is Okami. The visuals in that game are incredible. The audio is incredible too. I mean that's definitely, deserving of mention as well.
Definitely, man. That's a great picks. But this is final question, man.
Do you think you'll ever stop playing video games?
No.
Never in your life?
Never in my life until I can't physically do so or mentally do so. I've thought about that from time to time. As people get older, they outgrow things. I just don't see it, bro. I just don't see it. we're moving into our 30s and not there quite yet, but I mean, I just don't feel it fading. I don't.
That's fair.
Otherwise, I mean, why would we be here right now?
It's where we want to be.
I mean, look at this. Do you think it's going to go away?
I don't know. Luckily, I don't have to answer.
Well, we could talk off cam,
no,
off mic,
I don't
whatever
know.
about it.
It's hard for me to say. It's one of those questions that I'm glad I don't have to answer because I don't know. Like, it's
I
easy.
just feel it's like music to me. I just don't ever see a lack of appreciation or a want to spend time on these things.
In general, I agree. The only counterpoint that I think of is just having kids and having such an incredibly busy day-to-day life that you simply don't have time. But I don't think that counts really because
that's like saying I'm not going to watch films anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you're probably going to watch films the rest of your life from time to time, right?
I mean, yeah.
It's one of those things to me. I mean, it's just like watching films or TV series.
And I agree. And that's what I was getting to, right? Like, just because you don't have time for something for even years, right, doesn't mean you don't want to do it and doesn't mean you'll never do it again. Yeah. So, yeah, I have a hard time picturing a world where I don't, where video games aren't part of my life in some way.
For sure. Mm-hmm. My last one for you, it's so funny because we just talked about film. But what game do you personally think would be most worthy of a film or series adaptation? A lot of times this is a bad idea. Maybe there's something that you think would be a good idea. That's the point of the question.
Metal Gear Solid. It's basically already a series of films, right? I mean, you could take that game and turn it into an incredible, like, anime, to be honest, like, or, live action. I don't know. There's some elements of it that would really be hard to parse in live action, like some of the bosses that are just these surreal abominations. Like, I don't necessarily want to see that in CGI, but like as an anime or some sort of animated style, but like a gritty adult, story and stylization, that to me would be amazing.
I should have expected something of the sort. But I mean, hey, dude, you're right. It's already, I mean, it's basically
it's basically,
yeah.
It's ready. Like, ready, you can make a movie out of what is there, or like a series for sure.
Which people do, But I'm talking silver screen here.
No, I'm with you.
Or like streaming service.
You could definitely port it into a show or a series of movies quite easily. Yeah. I don't know if movies would work because it would take forever to tell the story and get all even a 6-film franchise wouldn't get all of the information out.
That's why I said film or series, because
it would have to be like a 10 episode, like a 10 season series of TV shows, to even come close. And I don't know. There's just so much going on in those games.
Well, I think it's a great answer. That was 20 questions.
That was a big one, but that was awesome.
How you feeling? How you feeling about it?
That's it's so nice to really just have to think. Like, I don't know if it's the best content to just sit here and go, but for me, like, just having the creative juices flowing to think about these things, I love it.
I don't think we sat idle too much, though. I think a lot of our answers are a lot quicker than we probably thought they would be.
Probably, yeah. I was really hoping there wouldn't be a stumper where I just couldn't come up with anything.
Yeah, which there wasn't. So we made it through clear, bro. That's the 20.
Well, let's keep this same energy up. Get into the top 5, Sterling. Top 5 games we never talk about.
Time to talk about them.
Time to talk about them for more or less the first time, except for, unfortunately, I've actually talked about a couple of these games today.
That's hilarious.
It is hilarious. But let's see. I went first on the question, so why don't you take us away on the top 5, my friend?
It's only fair. My honorable mention is Tomba 2 for the PlayStation 1.
All right.
we don't ever talk about Tomba.
I'm not familiar with it, I don't think.
It's fantastic. It's 3D, and it's not where you can run around freely. There's certain instances of the game where you can run around freely, but a lot of times it's kind of on a track, but it's in a 3D world. Really, really hard to describe the gameplay because it's a really unique game. But Tomba 2 is fantastic. It's pretty expensive on the used game market, but it's a great game, and we never really talk about it. I mean, we don't talk about PlayStation as it is super often.
Not much.
PS1.
Yeah.
So it would be only appropriate that I start with a PlayStation game. Tomba 2, I believe it's called The Evil Swine Returns. Very fond childhood memories, and it's something I haven't really talked about much. It's funny because this game, like so many moments in this game are so iconic to me, but I don't think it was the most popular game. It's a lot of games like that for a lot of people.
Definitely.
But yeah, man, Tomba 2 coming out the gate.
My game is one that I teased to you earlier before we got on the podcast. My honorable mention is, I believe, the first game I ever bought on Steam. It's not very well known, I don't think, but it's a game called Audio Surf. And
not familiar with it, so that makes sense.
The entire concept of this game is it's a rhythm game where you are in a ship, basically a vehicle that's going on a track, right? And you have to hit blocks that are on the left, right, or middle of this track. Think Egg Emergency, right? Mm-hmm. Or like a Sonic skating rail sequence.
Yeah.
But it's procedurally generated by uploading your own song to the game. So you can upload any song from like anything.
Wait a minute. I think I played this on my laptop when I was a teenager, dude.
I might have showed it to you back then because I thought I was blown away by it.
It's kind of like Guitar Hero.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a rhythm game.
Yeah, I think you did.
I think I must have shown this to you back in the day. Well, we'll keep that ancient memory resurfacing here, because I think this is what made me get a Steam profile, and like it was the first thing I ever had because I played it on someone else's computer, and I was like, this is so awesome. And this is when I was playing Rock Band like every day, and I was like, oh, you can upload your own songs. That's so sick. Like all the songs I love, you can't play on Rock Band or anything, right? Like how, I'm just listening to random stuff, but I just throw Suicide Silence into Audio Surf, and it's amazing. Like, because
just do your thing.
Yeah. And it goes like, if you upload a faster song like that with more notes, it's harder. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. You know something? I thought about it. I didn't play Audio Surf. What I played was very scuffed probably in comparison. It was called Frets on Fire.
Oh, I know about Frets on Fire, dude.
Just remembering that. I don't know how, but that's what I played on my laptop.
No, this
Frets
isn't
on
like
Fire,
that.
Dude.
This is like I'll install it and play it for you one day. It's pretty sick. It's like you're behind the ship. It's like F-Zero perspective. Mm-hmm. Like it will make you think F-Zero for sure.
I feel like I might have seen gameplay for it or something. I've seen a lot of rhythm games, so it's hard to, pick one out.
But it's not the greatest game ever played. It's pretty simple, but I played it a good bit back then, and it stood out to me, and I've never talked about it. I honestly forget all about it, except for when I see it in my Steam library, because it's like alphabetically like one of the first things I have.
Tyler loves rhythm games.
I do.
The next one would be like a number one if we did a numbered situation, like building up. But I just want to get it out the way in case you have it, honestly.
Okay.
And that's Soldat.
Oh, no. I don't have that. That's awesome, though.
We have not talked too much about Soldat. We may have brought it up. We haven't talked about it, though, man. This is a very important game between us.
Yeah, we used to get on this and play like a lot.
A lot.
And it wasn't that bad. It's
wasn't
a pretty cool.
Bad. It was great.
It was awesome. I mean, for someone now to see it, they would think it's pretty rudimentary, I think.
I don't know, man. I think it was it brought its own thing to the table.
Totally.
I think it was fantastic.
We should play that again too. You said it's on Steam.
It's on Steam for free.
That's awesome.
You just launch it from Steam.
That's amazing. Even if, because I remember we used to just get a lobby with you and me and just like, almost like try and hunt each other down.
And I got on, as I'm sure you did, in these random lobbies, you know, the death matches
the death matches for sure. I used to actually grind that for sure.
Remember the spaz, dude?
Oh, the spaz. I was always a sniper boy. I want that sniper. Yeah. Yep. That's the only way to play for me.
What was it? The AUG?
Probably.
I'm trying to remember all the weapons from it, but yeah, I remember loving the spaz. Everybody, you know, you'd always hate on people if they were using the spaz, but you loved it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you just get blown away. It's a one-shot kill from close range.
Because you don't have to have the best aim.
Correct.
Obviously, it's a shotgun. So. Yeah. But yeah,
sold that. Nice pick, man.
I remember Tyler was like, dude, trust me, it's going to look sketchy. Just install it. I'm seeing a bunch of Russian. I'm like, I don't know. He's like, just do it. And I did it. And I'm glad I did. It was a fun time.
Yeah. Oh, man. Good times. Back like if I told you that now, you'd be like, no. Like, go install this. It's not sketchy, I promise. No other information. You'd be like, no, I'm not doing that.
But now it's on front end on Steam, so I'd be a little more welcoming.
Yeah, but I'm saying for something else. Like, I'd just go to this website.
I probably would say no now, yeah.
My number 5 is a Switch game. I don't know if it's on other platforms, but it's a Switch game that I don't own, but my buddy owns, and I've played it with him a bunch of times, and it's amazing. Death Road to Canada. I'm sure you've probably seen this come up on sale and stuff.
Never even heard of it, dude.
Oh man, you would love this game. Really? Honestly, and it's got co-op, and I think you and your partner would have a really good time with it. But it's basically imagine you're familiar with Oregon Trail.
Yeah, of course.
Imagine that, but it's zombie apocalypse survival.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Like same representation as Oregon Trail, kind of?
More or less, right? You go to a spot, you play out a scenario, but you actually, like, it'll be like you get to the mall. You have to go explore the mall and try and find weapons and stuff. But then in between, it's like, oh, your car wrecked. You know, you have to do this. Will you do this or this? And then it's a roll of if it's good or bad. You know, it's like Oregon Trail in that way. In that, you know, it kind of, you have like sequences in between that are very reminiscent of Oregon Trail, but it's an awesome game. I would love to play it with you. If it ever goes on a deep sale, which I feel like it went on sale not that long ago. I would love to pick it up and play it with you. Cause I think we would have a lot of fun with that. And I think you and like I said, you and your partner would have a really good time with that.
Absolutely, bro.
Let me know what you got for number 5, bro.
The next one on my list, which I actually think Sold At was number 5, right?
Oh yeah, then sorry, number 4.
Porky Pig's Haunted Holiday for the Super Nintendo.
All right, we are going deep with this.
And I thought about this because I was talking to my girl recently about my Aunt Annabelle. May she rest in peace. She was the reason I got a Super Nintendo because of this game. I don't know if I've ever gone through this. We've done almost 50 episodes, you know.
I don't think I've ever heard this about Porky Pig.
But Porky Pig's, Haunted Holiday. It's a fantastic game. My Aunt Annabelle had a Super Nintendo and apparently only played this game as if it were like World of Warcraft or something. And she told my grandpa,
she's grinding Porky Pig.
She's like, listen, the kid loves video games. You need to get him a Super Nintendo and you need to get him this Porky Pig game. And guess what? He did. I remember a time when the only games I had for it were like Porky Pig, Tom and Jerry, which was actually a fantastic game. I could have put Tom and Jerry on this list. I feel so stupid now for not saying that. But same vein, right? Like same exact vein. But yeah, like Tom and Jerry, Porky Pig, Super Mario World, you know, Metroid, Super Metroid. Like that was the first game. Just because my Aunt Annabelle was like, this shit's fire. You need to get him a Super Nintendo just so he can play it. And he listened.
That's amazing.
So shout out to Porky Pig. Shout out to Aunt Annabelle. And hey, dude, the roots go deep.
That's awesome, man.
You know something, Tyler? You probably could get this game pretty inexpensively.
I'll have to check it out.
And it's worth playing. It's not just a bad licensed game. It's really good.
Yeah, a lot of those licensed games were gems from that era. We've talked about, what was it? The Goofy, or was it DuckTales?
Goof Troop?
Goof Troop?
You said Goof Troop, I think, before, but
That's
I
right.
love DuckTales on NES.
Yeah, I think Goof Troop was the one that I played. That game was awesome.
Yeah, all the NES ones are good, like the Capcom, like, you know, like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers and Darkwing Duck and all that. All good games. DuckTales.
My number 4 is a game that we've never talked about because it doesn't really fall into the same category as most of the games we talk about. But it's the Jackbox Party Pack series. I own every single one of these. Have you ever played a Jackbox game?
No, but I'm very familiar. Of what they are, yeah.
So we've never talked about this, but I own all these games and have used them quite a lot when hosting events or, you know, being at friends' house as a sort of collective thing for everyone to do, to just gather around, right? And I think it's an amazing social thing that we have these games that can be interactive in this way, that everybody can just jump in on, and you don't have to be a gamer to play at all. Like, you can get a parent into these games, you can get anybody onto these games.
Yeah, it's like charades.
It's exactly like charades. Yeah, it's 100% that style. And I think that's just in and of itself very novel and extremely good that this exists. So I just wanted to shout that out.
Hey, I mean, that sounds great.
I got all of them. I had one or two of them, but I got all the ones I didn't have on a Humble Bundle recently for like $20 for like the whole 6-pack or whatever. So that was pretty good.
Yeah. That's pretty legit. I mean, it is what it is, man. It's party games.
Yeah. But it's like the cream of the crop of like conversation games, I guess is what you would call it.
Yeah. The next one I want to throw out, I think we'll both pop off about, and we both might have brought it up, but we have not talked about this game, like talked about it. And that's Croc, Legend of the Gobos for PS1.
Yeah, this is a game that you've played more than me. I only had a brief experience with it.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Well, we brought it up before because we talked about the Super Mario 64 Origins. And
I owned it.
That was the only time I think we mentioned it, and we did not talk about anything beyond like, oh yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I owned it on PC, but my PC would not play it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because you had all these games I had on PlayStation, you had on PC, and I'm like, what?
A few of them, yeah.
Yeah, like the
Glover.
Glover was on PC?
Mm-hmm.
No shit. You're constantly blowing my mind with this, but by the way, where's the Glover port? I'm sorry, but
man, put Glover on this list, even though we have talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it way too much to put on this list, dude. That's one of the. If you like watch from the beginning, then you know about Glover and the legacy. But, am I throwing out my next one, T, or what?
Yeah, I said Jackbox.
Yeah, oh wait, no, we're talking about Croc.
Oh yeah, Croc, man.
I thought you played Croc more than you did.
I have a little bit. Like I played it,
yeah,
but it was.
You said
scuffed.
you had it.
It was scuffed.
I think it was really good for like the PlayStation 1 era, like 3D platformers, that type of thing.
Definitely.
I just recall having such a great time with it, and it's outshined by so many other 3D platformers. But I think about stuff like that. Also, I think about Gex. I never owned it, but I played Gex at a neighbor's house.
Gex was a frequent rental in my household.
Yeah. But shout out to Croc, man. Honestly, that might be the most mentioned game on this list because we talked about it once. I mean, a lot of these we have, we haven't mentioned much.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking about the
Legend of the
Scholastic
Gobos.
Book Fair because that's where I picked it up. One day we'll have, one day we'll have a discussion on the Scholastic Book Fair.
We've talked about it since the beginning, I think.
Yeah, but we need to just have a whole discussion topic about it and just really go in depth on it.
That's a time capsule.
It is.
For sure.
All right, my number 3 is a game it's an actual game that like it's like a AAA game, right? So it's Midnight Club 3. Now, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this game on the podcast or not. I don't feel like I have, but this game came out in the peak of like Pimp My Ride culture, right? Where you wanted the biggest rims, spinners, everything. That was what was cool at the time. And this game really like amped this aspect up into a very good racing game with a lot of customization and a lot of just really good racing mechanics. And it had multiple cities, and it was an awesome game. And I had just played San Andreas, so this style of car, modification, everything really appealed to me at the time in a big way. So, it hit stylistically for me, and it hit mechanically. And I really put a lot of time into Midnight Club 3. So yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah, I remember even non-gamers were all about Dub Edition. Everybody was on it, dude.
Yep.
It's a great pick. And it's one that I think the only time you might have ever talked about it was maybe in like reference to like Burnout or something, like a quick passing. Mm-hmm. The next one on my list, I have a very specific reason for it being there. Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. The reason, we may have mentioned this before, but the reason I bring it up is because I feel like it's probably the least mentioned mainline Mario game by us, if I had to pick one,
Probably, yeah.
But you want to talk about an upgrade from Super Mario Land to the second one? This is a drastic upgrade.
Definitely.
This is, gameplay wise, this was moving right along to Super Mario World. This was, it was a big jump. Kind of like the jump we got in Super Mario Bros. 3. There's a lot of weird things in 2, in Land 2, like the carrot pickup that gives you like rabbit ears. Like that shit didn't stay in Mario. But
I like that though.
It's such a well-built game though, and it's long. There's so many different zones, and they did such a good job with the design of each zone and the theming, Mm-hmm. It's just it's like one of these full-blown Mario experiences. It doesn't just take you from level to level. It's got an overworld. It's got bonus content. It introduced Wario. He's the boss of the game.
Yeah.
It deserves more mention.
Awesome.
Well, from us and pick, from everyone else, man.
Yeah. Nice pick.
But we're down to the wire, T.
Yep. My number 2 is going to be a game that, once again, I've put a ton of time into in the past, but we never really talked about for one reason or another, and that's CSGO, Counter-Strike Global Offensive.
We haven't talked much about CSGO.
I used to play a lot of CSGO. I was never very great at it, but I really enjoyed going into the casual modes and doing well in the casual modes. I never really tried to grind competitive, but either way, it's a mechanically satisfying game. It's a game with an extremely high skill ceiling and a very low floor, where if you're bad, you're not going to like luck into playing well.
Absolutely.
And I love that. So yeah, CSGO, I've always toyed around with the idea of going back and trying to play it some more, but I don't know if it's really in the cards right now. But yeah, CSGO, man. It still has I would say like half of my small Steam friends list, like are CSGO players, and I still see them playing all the time.
Yeah, I played CSGO a little bit, but not near as much as 1.6 or Source. I feel like I was really, really into Counter-Strike for those. Mm-hmm. But CSGO is something we don't talk about, but is still very relevant. The game's been going strong for a long time, and it will as long as, there isn't a new Counter-Strike game, which you kind of have to wonder when that would be.
I agree. Yeah, that's kind of... I never really thought about that, but yeah, we haven't really seen anything since Global Offensive, so I don't know.
It's funny that my number 1 is an FPS, but it's probably the most unexpected FPS ever.
All right, let's hear it.
And that's Metroid Prime Hunters for the Nintendo DS.
Unexpected by anyone except me.
Yep.
You used to play this game all the time.
Yep, and I think the only reason I would have mentioned it on here was about picking it up at the same time as Wild World.
Yep.
That is rooted in my memory. I got those two games the same moment. And just absolutely iconic to me. I think about my little brother and how into the game he got. I kind of got him into gaming with Hunters.
Yeah.
To the point where he wound up getting his own copy used, and playing it online seriously. The thing about it is, Tyler, this was the first time I could actually say I was getting online and playing an FPS competitively.
I remember that.
On a Nintendo system.
I remember you telling me that you found a certain area of your grandparents' house where you could get the neighbor's Wi-Fi on your DS and play.
There were 2 windowsills in my home at the time of this. And these 2 windowsills were free Wi-Fi. And I remember
Linksys,
playing...
dude. Goated.
Oh, man.
Kids these days don't know about Linksys.
No, dude. You're totally right, because that's what it was. That really is what it was. And
it always is.
Once I got my little brother into it and he wound up getting his own DS, we had 2 windowsills, dude. And it's so funny because at any given moment I'd walk into the kitchen, he'd be right there on the windowsill, and I knew exactly what he was doing. He was online playing Metroid Prime Hunters.
That's awesome. Would you guys scam it in the same way that we do golf now? Try and queue at the same time?
No, but we would deathmatch. It's funny because he was the GOAT at the game. I think he played Silux online. He wrecked, but anytime we went on one, he never took me. I played Trace, which is the sniper class basically, and it's cheap. You go invisible if you stand still. So that is pretty cheap, but you also don't have any type of, ranged alt form, which is like your smaller travel form, kind of like Samus's Morph Ball. But man, such great memories. I never talk about it, but this was you wouldn't imagine the game could be so intense with the stylus, like an FPS, but this game was intense online, man. I just remember fighting for glory. They did a really good job with the multiplayer maps. I just remember they took maps, each zone, they kind of made a little multiplayer spot,
Yeah.
Just a great game. Something that we talk about a lot of Metroid, but I feel like that's the one we talk the least about. So, number 1 material.
Nintendo, if you're listening to this, give us a trickle. Give us a morsel or a drop of information about Metroid Prime 4.
Or a port of a previous one, preferably for me the first one. I was a big fan of Metroid Prime.
Maybe 1 and 2.
Maybe 1 and 2 together.
But
I don't know, maybe something.
As far as 4, just one screenshot or a picture of the team working on it or something.
Yeah.
Anything.
A picture of the team working on it.
I don't care,
dude,
man.
I'm with you.
Just let me know that the game is not forgotten. I know that it's not, but just some small nugget of confirmation would be great.
Like even a video of text that says it's still being worked on.
100%. Give us the Breath of the Wild 2 treatment.
That's what comes to mind. It's exactly what made me think of that. Just do it. Don't even get on camera. Just put text on it.
Yeah, you can tweet. Just tweet it.
Yeah, that's all everybody talks about it. Oh, man.
Anyway,
I'm with you, Tyler.
I got one more.
This is the reason we do this shit together. Yeah, but let's hear your number 1.
All right. My number 1, it's so funny because I actually mentioned this franchise accidentally in this episode today. It's Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3.
We don't talk about Dark Souls. You got that right.
We do not talk about Dark Souls. I have played the first 2 Dark Souls games a good bit, and I love them. I think they're awesome. I haven't played them much lately. They've not been on my top of my list, but I enjoy Dark Souls games a lot. I'll go on record and say that, I talk a lot about difficulty in games and being challenged by games, and I mean Dark Souls, that's what the game is about. So shout out to Dark Souls. I do intend to play all the games again at some time in the future, but they're in a long line.
I need to go back. I got a little brother that's a huge Dark Souls fan, and the only one I've ever played was like the first one on 360. Man, I don't know. It's just one of those things I just passed by, But I know, I hear about them so much, and I know that they're great games, and the challenge is there, and I'm sure it's something I'd be into. I should probably even just hop on Xbox or something. I think I might even have it digitally.
Yeah,
and
they're
these
awesome.
games go on sale.
The first 2 games on Steam, if you get them, you have to download some fan patches to make them work properly.
Oh.
They don't. The ports of the first 2 on Steam are bad, especially the first one. I would call it borderline unplayable. But there's a few little just packages that like, I think it's called like Better Souls or something, where it's like,
yeah, I think I've heard of that.
Like it's something like that. I'm sure if you go to purchase the game and look in the community tab, you'll find something. But vanilla Dark Souls 1 Prepare to Die edition or whatever, like on Steam, not very playable.
Fix it.
But so yeah, if you were going to start out with 1 on Steam and you didn't want to have to mess with that, I would say start with 3. Obviously Elden Ring, a lot of people love. I haven't played it. It's quite a hot topic at the moment. I have an interest in it, but
little brother said it wasn't the hype. He expected more.
Yeah, that's fair.
Given the amount of dev time put in on it.
Sure, I love the high fantasy setting. That speaks to me in a big way. So I have an interest in the game, but yeah, man, Dark Souls, just classic 1 through 3. I love them. They're great.
Got to get into them more for sure. But that's the top 5, T.
That's the top 5, man. And that's the games that we formerly never talk about.
Formerly, and now we've brought them up. But now we're going to talk about games in the 3 shop, which me and Tyler collaborated a bit on, which we don't always do.
Yeah.
But we kind of sat down and, worked it out, talked about it. We like doing this last minute just because sales go up. You don't want to do it early, miss something.
Yeah.
Things like that. But just as a disclaimer, they're having a crazy, I guess we could call it a Bethesda sale. My mind goes to id when I see Doom and Quake and, all that.
Yeah, they're having all that now,
Bethesda,
though.
Yeah.
Which means
Bethesda
Microsoft owns it.
Yep. And that basically is the domination of the 3 shop today, is this Bethesda sale.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, first off, Quake's on it, and this got you to purchase it, right?
Yeah, I purchased it on the Switch. I did.
So the sale that Tyler got today, 60% off, $9.99 to $3.99 until the 28th. Like you said, the price of an ATM fee to own Quake on the Switch.
I mean, come on.
Come on. It's just an absolute no-brainer. I mean, just get it.
I think that's the best. That's probably the best hyperbole I can say. Is like, I've paid a higher ATM fee than that.
Absolutely. Tyler threw this one at me, actually. Skyrim. We're talking about Bethesda, of course.
Which we don't see on Switch, at least, go on sale at all. Never.
It actually popped out to me because I've never really seen a deep sale on it. This is a 50% off sale, though.
Yeah.
So $59.99 to $29.99 going on until the 28th. I mean, it's tempting to have Skyrim on the go if you don't already.
I have this game physically.
On Switch?
Yes.
Didn't that come with the original purchase?
That was part of my lot that I purchased, yes.
That's what I thought. I remember you saying that because it's such a random physical Switch game to have to me. I mean,
I'm happy to have it, though.
Yeah.
I think it's a good one.
Because like you said, I've ever gone anywhere and saw it physically.
Playing Skyrim mobile and having that ability is pretty cool. For sure.
I haven't really gotten into Skyrim, man. I've had it on multiple platforms and just still haven't. I played Oblivion a lot, so I don't know why I don't play Skyrim. I'm sure I'd like it.
It's a good game.
Last on the 3 shop, Postal Redux. Down from $9.99 to $3.99, kind of like Quake, 60% off until the 9th of May. That's quite a long time on that. Yeah. We've had this one on 3 shop before. It's a strong twin stick shooter. I think it plays great on the Switch. As long as you're okay with excessive violence and suggestive themes, hey, go for it, man. Postal Redux, very visceral, very fun. $3.99 is a steal to me. You can play the original Postal on Steam for free. But the Redux, it kind of overhauls it, makes it look really good. Totally worth $3.99 in my opinion.
Again, like there are highway tolls that are more expensive than this.
Yes. Your hyperbole is just on point today, bro. But that's a 3 shop and that's an episode, Tyler. How you feeling about it?
It was a beefy one, but I feel great. I feel
it was
really
a
good.
beefy one. Yeah, we almost touched the 2-hour mark. But I think it's about time for your magic outro that you always give.
If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback, you can reach out to us at starroadpodcast@gmail.com. We're also now putting all of our videos or all of our podcasts into video form on YouTube, full of webcam video of me and Sterling and everything. So if you're listening audio, feel free to check us out on YouTube, subscribe, like the video, ring the bell. Send us your firstborn, whatever you can do to get the message out.
Uploads every Sundays and Wednesdays. That's another
every
thing
Sunday
you gotta
and
add
Wednesday.
to it. Yep. Expect
Like
an upload
clockwork.
every Sunday and Wednesday.
Yep. So reach out to us there, and I think that's going to bring us to the end, Sterling.
It certainly is, and I've enjoyed myself today more than anyone could probably imagine, Tyler. I enjoyed doing this with you.
Yeah, man. It was a good one for sure.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, wonderful 2 weeks, and we'll be back again before you know it. Take it easy, everybody.
Peace.